So, quick backstory. Mary Poppins was one of my favorite Disney films growing up as a kid. We had the VHS. I would watch that thing almost on a weekly basis at best. It was that, Sword in the Stone, Great Mouse Detective, all the ones you probably aren't the big name ones, but still really good. And Mary Poppins held a special place in my heart. I love seeing the world and basically the magic it felt. It was wonderful seeing them interact with all of the 2D characters, and the magic, while not super powerful like you would see from a Harry Potter franchise, was actually real and enjoyable. And I felt, well, as a kid, magic. I felt like it was a world I wanted to be in, a world I wanted to see. And when the movie was done, I was a little saddened by it. And it's very few films or even television series that, make me feel that feeling of I want to be more into that world. Case in point here to date, most recent ones I could think of would be Avatar: The Last Airbender, or even Sherlock Hound to that regard. By the way, look it up. It's actually a really good old Studio Ghibli-esque style film series for Sherlock Holmes, except they're all dogs, which, meh, whatever. Still really good. And Mary Poppins Returns, well, it's not as good as the original. I want to make that abundantly clear up from the get-go. If you're going to go in thinking that it's going to be as good as the original, don't. It does have one key aspect I'm going to get into in a minute, but if you're thinking it's going to be as good as the original, don't. It's good, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's just not as good as the original. To me, the songs feel a lot more natural in the original one. Now, the songs in here are still good. Can you imagine that? Very good. Tupelo Light Fantastic was also really enjoyable. And the last one, You Got Nowhere to Go But Up, is really good. Now, compare them to their counterparts, though. Spoonful of Sugar destroys, can you imagine that? Step in Time destroys Triple Little Light Fantastic, even though Triple Little Light has a lot more choreography into it than some of the other ones, but there are BMX bikers in there, don't ask. And then finally, you got Let's Go Fly a Kite versus Nowhere to Go But Up, which, for the first time, I'll actually say, if you look at the messages, I would actually say You Have Nowhere to Go But Up is actually better than Let's Go Fly a Kite. But the emotional impact of Let's Go Fly a Kite is better than the emotional impact of Nowhere to Go But Up. So, with that quick comparison out of the way, I enjoy this movie. Now, this one's probably, if it is, going to be near the bottom of my top 10, if it even makes the list, because there are some issues with this. Primarily in the fact that you can immediately tell what's going to happen right away, and you kind of just smack your head when you go, really? Really, that's where it was? Really, we're doing this whole gambit? And just, all right. Just wait for this reveal, and then when the reveal happens, you immediately go, okay, now what are you going to do? Okay, well, apparently, So, funny story, with recent events in the current newscape and the events, I found a group of basically white British men riding around with bikes and tiki torches in the middle of the night, storming freaking Big Ben. Long story behind that one. I'm like, okay, take this out of context and send it to CNN and see if they fall for it. I'm curious. I'm really curious to see if they would fall for it, but yeah, that's just me goofing on them. But still, it was actually kind of like surreal. Like, when you're a kid and you see the entire army of chimney sweeps, you go, dang. When you see these guys, you go, okay, they're mobile, they're pretty much in sync, and man, these guys, apparently one of them asked for help, the rest of them are like, okay, let's do this. Okay, we gotta climb Big Ben. Let's do it. And they actually come up with a good plan, and they actually think things through, and why they're storming Big Ben, and climbing up the tower. The long story, I don't really want to spoil this thing, but it's enjoyable. And Mary Poppins, okay, address the elephant in the room. No one can replace Julie Andrews. It's impossible. She was amazing. But the woman who they got to replace her was actually really good. Because Mary Poppins, except she played up the smug side a little bit more, but she also played up the lighthearted secret side of her a little bit more. In the original Mary Poppins, it was very hinted at whether or not this was all real or it was just her ability to manipulate the world and everything around it. But basically by the end you knew it was all magic. Here, straight from the get-go, it's all magic. Like, you know immediately that magic's involved in this stuff, and Unlike some of the films I've seen recently where it's magic, this magic felt real. It felt like it was a mix of your imagination taking the personification from the magic. Like I said, even the songs I mentioned, it's tough to say, but you felt the magic. And this is the biggest thing I will give this movie the credit of. I'm not even going to talk about the 2D animation mixed with the live action that I've been dying to see for a long time. I missed it from back in the day. Bedknobs and Broomstick, freaking Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the original Mary Poppins. When they go into this other world, it feels like it's another world. You can feel the magic in the air. And it makes you feel like this is actually real. This could happen in the world sense, and you want to be a part of it. And nowadays, when we try to do the whole, real world meets the cartoon world, they try to do live action CGI. Don't make it real. You distract from the imagination. You distract from the wonder. Unless you can make it look perfectly, and there are some films where you want to do that. Like, for example, in the Marvel series, don't do that. Don't put cartoon Thanos here as you try to fight him. That makes no sense. But when you're trying to embrace another world or take something from a previous world, like the Smurfs or, hell, DuckTales or any of that stuff, and you want to bring it into the real world, keep them in their cartoon form. Make them seem, like they're from another world. And when they're in the porcelain bowl, it's actually well done. The animators just are amazing. And the set design, great. The song, A Cover Is Not a Book, I personally enjoy mostly because it's true. You can't judge a book by its cover, and they do a little fun jokes of that stuff. But all that stuff stems from the magic, and that's truly what this movie brings out. There's actually a very heartfelt moment in the middle because they have both Banks kids there, but the reason behind that is Michael Banks, the younger of the two, the boy, his wife recently passed away, and the kids have basically become mini adults, except for the youngest, Georgie. So it was just funny because he went to go chase after a balloon. I'm like, oh no, no Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins versus It. Sorry, new ideas. But, sorry, that idea got me thinking. Mary Poppins beats the crud out of It with a freaking stepping time and the lamplighters. You gotta think about it, with all the unions that were going around at the time during the Great Slump, if they all worked for Mary Poppins, she probably could take over Europe, but, magic is magic is. Even though she seems omniscient in this verse, which is a lot different from the original, they really play up the fact that she basically, I could almost akin to her that of an angel with the omniscience she has and the magic she's able to wield. But, that's for another day. So, as I keep getting distracted from this, the big thing I do want to stress across, and I keep coming back to this word, it's magic. And it's not just the magic in the series, it's not just the magic that I'm talking about, it's the movie magic. Seeing stuff from another world, seeing the wonder that Disney is able to bring. And I'm not saying anything bad about their other movies. Honestly, freaking Tangled is great. Princess and the Frog, really, really good. Wreck-It Ralph, Inside Out. All these are really, really good films. I don't want to take it away, but they're missing something. And I think this film was one thing that brought it back. It's the magic. When I went to go see all those films in theaters, and a lot of films I've seen in theaters, especially when it comes to the kids' films or the young adult ones, there's no sense of grandeur, there's no sense of wonder, there's no sense of just magic, for lack of better words. Throughout this movie, first off, packed theater, so I could hear every single kid under the sun. But what I heard actually kind of moved me. They were asking about the emotion that was being presented by the character. They were asking why some characters were crying. They were saying, when they bring up this part of the dead mother and the song, Where the Lost Things Go. Which, by the way, okay. Not even Julie Andrews, she was there, could sing that song that good. I'll give that one that. It's the delivery was too perfect. Because unlike Julie Andrews, when she sings about the sad stuff within Mary Poppins, there's still a bit of an upbeat tone to it to some regard. This one, no, it's very somber and very real, and it tugs at the heartstrings kind of bit if you've ever lost anything or anyone. Be it a family member, a close friend, even a pet to some regard. I could hear a good number of people crying in that theater, and a couple of the kids going over to their parents and saying, "Don't worry, mommy," and one down there said, "Don't worry, grandma," or something. "I'm not going to get lost," or "I don't want you to get lost." Well, stuff like that. It makes the kids think, and this film addresses that. It makes the kids actually think. It makes them actually wander. It makes them actually want to see the world. I heard some kids were saying they wanted more by the end of it, and haven't heard that in a long time. Now, it could just be the basic kid and all that stuff, and someone screaming outside my door, but yeah, who cares? But they have all this wonder and moment that it's really tough for me not to say that this film did what it was supposed to. Are there problems with it? Like I said, some of the acting is stilted. The plot seems very. Why'd you have to ham fist a villain in there? The original, there wasn't a really big villain. It was just basically a dad not spending enough time with his kids and eventually everything working out in the end for him. Now, in this one, we got a villain, which, okay, I see why, but why would he try to do it this way? And then it's not really what the reason he's asking about. It's actually for something else, which doesn't even matter, because even if he does take the house, he doesn't get the shares. It's, yeah. But Dick Van Dyke shows up, and oh boy. Dick Van Dyke was amazing. Just, you could feel that even in his old age, and I couldn't tell how much of that was makeup and how much of that was actually Dick Van Dyke. You could tell in his old age, he still wants to do this. He still has the energy. And they do retcon Bert out of this, saying he's gone away, but, it's... You can still see the energy of Bert within the character, even though he's playing someone completely different. It's still there. Dick Van Dyke still has the same whimsy and heart that he had back when he was Bert. And the new guy they have, Jack, he's really good too. He's basically was Bert's apprentice from when he was a chimney sweep, and now he's a lamplighter. Which kind of makes sense, given the Great Slump. There's not that many need for chimney sweeps, but the lamplighters are still needed because that's how they did it back then. And England's huge, so it makes sense. So, yeah. I guess really at the end of it, this film was actually really nice. It really tugged at the heartstrings. It was really enjoyable. Are there issues with it? Like I said, there are. But after the year I've seen, after all the films, all the good and the bad, there were really good films and really bad films. In case of point, freaking Holmes and Watson, Darkest Mind, Death of a Nation, Go Rot in a Pit, or Fantastic Beasts, Go Rot. Hey, you want to see magic? Watch this film. But all that aside, I think this was the best film to end the year off on. Even though I'm uploading this about a couple days later because reasons. It's actually really good. Gives you hope, really. For all the movies I've seen, and the reason why people ask me, why do I do this? Why do I keep doing these reviews? Well, the reason I do these reviews is because I enjoy film and what it can do. Films take you to another world. They express all different things, and it's not just movies. It's all forms of media and art motif. It could be literally paintings, sculptures, comics, manga, anime, television series, or books, the thing that seems to be dying out these days. But all these things can basically impute messages on you that you don't have to live to see. And they can take you to another world. They're great escapists, but they actually make you want to be a part of that world, and maybe if you can, bring a little part of it into here. Like I said, the ending song, Nowhere to Go But Up, could be very well used in this day and age, because a lot of people feel they're at the bottom. And especially when the new year coming about, some people had a really rough 2018. And if you did, just want to tell you it does get better. When you think you've hit the lowest point, when you think you got nothing left, when you think there's nothing you have left, it's really true. There's nowhere to go but up. And as long as you really think that and you really feel that and you work your butt off, you can achieve whatever you want. And it's not just a basic platitude. I've literally lived it to some regard. Almost lost everything I had, lost a lot. But there's a lot to grow and there's always room to improve. And just like the movie tells you, there's nowhere to go but up. So, is it better than the original? Like I said, no, but the spirit and the magic is still there. It still has a good lesson to teach, and it still has a lot to show. And from basically the interaction I saw with kids and the way it treated them like actual human beings and not just minions. Poop! Ah! Or ow, 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 all that stupid junk. It's nice to see them actually treat kids with respect again. And not just go to the lowest common denominator, which Disney was never originally for. It wasn't this always cookie cutter like it was trying. Every of the original Disney animated films, the 2D ones, had their own style and feel to them. Yeah, some felt similar, but Really, they each had their own different moral and message in the way they were presented. Which, granted, they're from fairy tales, and this is from a book series, but they at least had their own feel to them. And even this one, even though it is the sequel to Mary Poppins, it actually feels like a true sequel, not just a rip-off spin-off. It does its own thing, but still plays homage to the original. And even to the end, which literally, if you weren't paying attention to the original one, you wouldn't understand how the ending actually works, but it actually makes sense. The small things that in the first film have drastic effects on the new one. Kind of like a Telltale game if it actually had any merit to it. Rest in peace, Telltale. So yeah, that was Mary Poppins, possibly one of my longest reviews to date. But actually a good one, I can promise you that. I'm glad I saw this film. Look forward to my top 10 best and my top 10 worst. They're going to be interesting because the top 4 spots of each are pretty much filled. It's just where the other ones go. So, who knows? Well, comment below what you think was the top 10 best or worst films of 2018. Or what films you think I should have had a chance to review or had a chance to actually sit down and do it. Can. But, yeah. I got one last little thing I'm going to do before the year is done. Well, start working on it anyway. This one's going to be quick because we got 3 weeks until something I've been waiting 15 years for rolls around. So, after my top 10 list, be ready for something interesting. And this time I seriously got it because I at least got the scripts written. Alright, well, enough prattling. As always, I'm Kevin Riley signing off, and I'll see you all next time. Later.